bringing it down squarely on the killer's skull, crushing his head and saving Madison. The women pull each other up and continue running for their lives. Back at the camp, Ted and his men casually stroll up to the bleeding, dying Jean. Ted coldly asks her exactly how many women are in her group. Even with her dying breaths, Jean fiercely refuses to give them any information. Frustrated, Ted executes her on the spot. The surviving women sprint until they are trapped near the edge of a massive steep cliff. Hearing the relentless gunfire getting closer, they are forced to change direction. Ted, realizing the prey is fleeing, hands a sharp knife to his human dog, ordering the beast to hunt them down without mercy. Ted pauses only to pray over the body of his fallen team member before the group resumes the chase, desperate to escape. The women attempt to scale a steep, treacherous rock wall leading up the mountain. Ren is climbing near the top, but in her frantic haste, she slips. Her foot violently dislodges a massive, heavy boulder. The rock plummets downward, crashing directly onto Shay's head. Shay falls instantly, killed by the horrific accident. Realizing the mountain path is too dangerous and slow, the devastated group is forced to climb back down. They abandon Shay's broken body and retreat deeper into the forest trails. Night falls, and the exhausted, traumatized survivors huddle together in the dark. As the sun rises the next morning, they desperately hold up their phones, praying for even a single bar of cell service. But there is nothing. The tension snaps when Madison suddenly spots one of the killers lurking in the trees. Blinded by fear, she doesn't warn the others. She simply turns and sprints away on her own. The killer immediately gives chase, separating Madison from the group and cornering her at the edge of a deep cliff. As the killer raises his weapon to slaughter Madison, April bursts through the bushes, bravely charging the man from behind. A violent struggle ensues, and the killer drives his hunting knife deep into April's stomach. Hearing the screams, the rest of the women finally arrive. Screaming in rage, they swarm the killer. Using heavy tree branches and pure adrenaline, they mercilessly beat the man until he staggers backward, slipping off the edge of the cliff and tumbling like a rag doll into the rocky abyss below. The immediate threat is gone. But April is bleeding out rapidly. The women frantically apply pressure to her severe stab wound, remembering the abandoned cabin they passed the day before. They carry the bleeding April through the woods, hoping to find shelter and supplies. They kick the cabin door open. Kat quickly clears the surrounding area, checking for threats. Finding it empty, they lay April down in the main living room, desperately trying to stop the bleeding. Knowing they need bandages and antiseptics immediately, Kat runs into an adjacent room to search for medical supplies, but April has lost too much blood. Before Kat can return, April takes her final breath and dies on the cabin floor. Meanwhile, inside the adjacent room, Kat's blood runs cold. Searching through the drawers, she uncovers horrific trophies and weapons. She realizes with absolute terror that they haven't found a safe haven, they have just walked directly into the killer's home base. She turns to flee, but a killer is already waiting for her at the door. He lunges, wrapping his heavy hands tightly around her throat, choking the life out of her. But Kat refuses to be a victim again. Remembering the abuse she survived, she channels her rage, aggressively gouging the killer's eyes with her thumbs. As he recoils, Kat grabs a heavy iron pipe from the floor. With relentless, brutal force, she beats the killer to death, striking him over and over again until he stops moving, covered in blood. Kat escapes the cabin and hides in the dense brush. Nearby, she hears voices. She creeps closer and overhears Ted and his men. They don't yet know their cabin was breached or their men are dead. Ted is actively planning to wipe out the remaining women. He turns to his junior member Zeb and gives a chilling order. Zeb is allowed to keep one of the women alive for himself. Zeb grins and heads out into the woods to hunt. Back at the cabin, Ren and Madison realize April is dead and Kat is missing. Knowing the killers are coming, Ren hands Madison a sharp hunting knife, grabs one from the kitchen sink for herself, and prepares to fight to the death. Kat sprints back to warn her friends. Inside, a heavy knock echoes on the front door. Ren, gripping her blade, bravely steps outside to confront the threat. but the door opens to an empty porch. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out from the tree line. The bullet tears through Ren, and she collapses. Kat arrives just in time, grabbing Ren by the collar and dragging her bleeding body back inside the cabin. Outside, the killer, who was pushed off the cliff, reveals he survived the fall. He charges toward the cabin and violently attacks Madison on the porch. A desperate fight for survival breaks out. But Madison manages to use the knife Ren gave her, ruthlessly stabbing the killer and ending his life. Inside the cabin, the true nightmare begins. Ted, the sadistic leader, kicks the door open, leveling his deadly, double-barreled shotgun. Just as he prepares to execute Kat, Madison sneaks up from behind. With a scream, she drives her hunting knife deep into Ted's back. Howling in pain, Ted staggers forward and escapes out the door, fleeing blindly into the woods. Kat, determined to end this once and for all, grabs a weapon and chases Ted into the trees, while Madison frantically searches for medical supplies to save the bleeding Ren. As Ren lies helpless on the floor, the junior killer Zeb enters the room. Believing he has found his prize, he stands over the wounded girl, disgustingly asking if she is a virgin. Ren pretends to be weak, waiting for the perfect opening. In a flash of defiance, she thrusts her blade directly into Zeb's neck, instantly executing him deep in the woods. Kat tracks down the wounded Ted. She sneaks up behind him and violently yanks the hunting knife out of his back, intending to use it against him. But Ted is a highly skilled fighter. He dodges her lethal strike and aggressively fights back. Kat slashes at him, but Ted overpowers her, knocking her to the ground. Standing over her, bleeding but victorious, Ted raises his gun to deliver the final shot. Refusing to die, Kat summons every last ounce of her strength. She lunges upward, closing the distance, and uses her bare hands and a heavy rock to viciously smash Ted across the skull. As he drops the weapon in a daze, Kat snatches his gun from the dirt, aims it directly at his head, and pulls the trigger. Blowing his brains out, the forest falls dead silent. The psychotic hunting party has been completely eradicated. Covered in dirt, sweat, and blood, Kat walks back to the cabin. She reunites with a heavily bandaged Ren and an exhausted Madison. The three traumatized but victorious survivors lean on each other for support. Together, they slowly walk away from the cabin, marching down the long, empty dirt road towards civilization and safety. Having survived the ultimate test of human endurance? Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the recaps, pause, like, and subscribe. See you in next recap.